We'll call the meeting to order for the Clemson City Police Advisory Board, December 7th meeting. We'll start with the roll call. Myself, Lisa Robinson, present. Eunice Lehmacher. Here. Kevin Dill.
Present.
Sandy Edge. Here. Riley Wright.
Present.
William King.
Present.
Elaine Masseri. Here. Winton Hunter. Here. And Ashby Williams. And we'll see if she's coming up.
Riley, you want to come up here and sit with us?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Kids stay.
He's got everything spread out.
Okay, so we will move on to the approval of the agenda. You have that in front of you. It's also posted online. Are there any changes, additions, edits? And if not, we can go ahead and get a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, on to the minutes. So you've got the minutes of the October 26th meeting in front of you. If you take a chance to look over those, these are also posted online. Are there any edits, changes, additions from the previous meeting?
Move to accept as written.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the minutes? Opposed. Okay. We will now move on to citizen comments, and we do not have anyone here in the gallery, so we will skip that and come back if someone does show up. We'll go on to the department status.
Thank you. Before I start with that, just a thought on how you want to proceed maybe for future meetings. But I know many of you communicate on social media and things are brought to your attention by different citizens in that arena. And if there are no one in the audience to talk about that, I wonder if that would be the appropriate time to ask if there are any board members that have topics to bring up and discuss that are not on the agenda during that time period. And then, yeah, and instead of waiting to board member comments at the end, it's just a thought that you all decide how you want to do that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Under department status, so we have one officer vacancy still. And again, if you recall, we're holding off until our cars get here, so we don't want to hire somebody and not have a car for them. So that's one of the reasons why that one isn't filled yet. We have 2 officers that are starting the academy. They report this Sunday. They passed their cumulative and their physical ability tests, so they will be starting on Sunday. We have one that still needs to complete his cumulative test, and once that is completed, then he'll get a start date for the academy. We have one officer in FTO, and I think I reported last time that one officer graduated FTO. That was Alicia Reyes. She is now solo.
FTO.
Field training officer or field training program. So that's when they return from the academy, come back, then they are with a officer, multiple officers within a minimum of 8 weeks to see how everything they learn in the academy applies here, how to do their reports, what system to use, so on and so forth. So they are paired with an officer and are taught all of those things and are observed and evaluated during that time period before we cut them solo. So that's what FTO stands for. We have, today we had one, and technically I guess we still have one dispatch position vacant, but we did a temporary or conditional job offer today with someone. They now have to complete some of the more intrusive testing and stuff before an official job offer comes out. So stuff like a physical, a drug test, those kind of things. And if all that comes out like we expect it to, we'll probably have that person start soon. In the same arena, our new jail employee completed her certification as a dispatcher online and will be starting the jail training down at the academy next month in January. So she's slated to go then. Let's see. And then I have one employee that's on extended medical leave. That's kind of a workload vacancy for us right now. So they're still dealing with their medical issues. So that is it for the department status and staffing review.
Any questions for Chief on that? If not, we'll move on to the crime review.
Okay. As I reported last time, we had a network event for the city, and we're still reeling from that. So it makes accessibility to computers and other resources very challenging. So for the month of October, many of our numbers went down because of that. So for instance, our citations issued was only 97 for the month of October. Our traffic stops were down to 176. And because of the computer issues, we're not able to run wants and warrants checks, driver's license checks, those kind of things until we can get all of those resources back up and running. So we still had a relatively high volume for calls for service at 2,600 for the month of October. We had one DUI arrest. We had 22 incarcerations. We issued 10 noise warnings, and we responded to 31 noise complaints. We handled 60 vehicle collisions and 3 that resulted in injury. Our patrol officers issued 21 parking citations. And as a side note with parking citations, our parking enforcement officer and function moved to a different department within the city. So the parking enforcement during the day, and then they're also hiring 1 or 2 more to do weekends and nights. All of that is handled. They report to Lindsay Newton now. So as far as how many citations are written, they purchased a new citation issuing system, which is electronic, and there's multiple things that system can do. I know that they've demoed it at some of the other city meetings if you're interested on how it works. But it's a better database right in the hand of the enforcing officer as to whether it's a multiple violation vehicle or recent or first-time violator, or so on and so forth. So there's graduated fines now based on that. They've changed the fining system, so a lot of that is going to change. Here it has changed. It started this month, so that's going to be interesting.
Do you know when the city network issue is going to be rectified?
I know our IT staff
looking at it?
is on it more than 5 days a week. Part of the issue that we're running to over at the police department is because of the databases that we normally have access to, there are security protocols that we have to go through, and then there's materials that have to be sent to SLED, and SLED has to approve them. So we're in that limbo of that occurring before we can get those things back online. Now, we do have access to do some of that thing because we're using the university's dispatch center to do a lot of those things. It's just not easy to do. It's cumbersome. We could still get that information back. It's just not very timely on how it happens. Let's see. The only other stat, I guess, not necessarily stat, but status, you were all copied on the news release that went out last week of a drug seizure and arrest that we had made. And a lot of people look at that and go, wow, I can't, but that doesn't surprise me. We know there are other drug suppliers in and around Clemson that are doing the same thing. It's just a matter of finding out who they are and getting a case on them. So our narcotics detective is underwater right now. He's breathing air through a straw, not only because of that case, but all the other ongoing cases that he has. But just kind of the search warrant that we did at the beginning of the school year over off Cochrane Road, a similar type of operation. So that's why I say I'm not surprised, because we know they're out there. It's just a matter of getting enough information, evidence to serve a search warrant and do what we need to do. But that case was a really good case. They got the information. The detective jumped on it right away and fortunately was able to see activity that led to the search warrant that same day. Sometimes it's not that obvious or apparent that it's going on, and it takes a little more work before we can get enough information to get a search warrant. So, but in this case, it just presented itself where that happened. So that case is still ongoing. There's still a lot of work to be done in that case. I also have up on the monitor, as you can see, our crime mapping software. The vendor is doing a better job of getting all of this stuff out there. What you're seeing is the last 3-month window. Because of our computer issues, you will not see anything in the month of October or November, and probably not in December, until we can get that part of the system back online to where it's funneling the information to the vendor. But I still wanted to put it up there to show, so that's basically just September of how busy we definitely can be. And that's it for the crime review.
Chief, can you show us what street that was, at least on the map?
Where the drug seizure was?
Where the big one was?
It was on Freedom, which is
Behind Publix.
right behind Publix.
Oh, behind Publix.
Let's see, that's Old Greenville Highway. Let me get my bearings. 76.
It's right to the
Yeah, right here, Freedom Drive. So this is the light right here to Publix. This is the Publix shopping center here. And it was up along here, actually towards the end, over here.
So that arrest was just the city, the county was not involved?
County was not involved.
Because Cochrane, wasn't it county?
Cochrane, we utilized the county SWAT team to serve the warrant, but the actual case itself was a city case. Yeah, one of the things that what we do in abundance of caution is we have what they call a threat matrix when we're going for a search warrant, and we have to enter a premises that we don't know what's in there, kind of a thing. And depending on how it scores will depend on how many officers we will need and what other kind of resources. And the one on Cochrane Road scored out to where we needed a larger team to help execute it. And then once they execute it and secure everybody that's in there, then they all start to leave at that point. So this one that we did, it scored to where we had enough resources in-house that we could have done it.
Well, I definitely appreciate the work of the detectives and the officers to do that and get that stuff off the streets. And, you know, I know they're continuing that work, but I think all citizens definitely appreciate them doing that.
Well, I'll definitely pass that along.
And is that, so what they found, were those, do you know, like, are those things intended for distribution? Or are those things just being held in like a safe house kind of thing to transport somewhere else?
They were definitely intended for distribution because the observations of the detective was distribution, and that's what led to the search warrant. But there was evidence in the apartment that led, that further substantiated the distribution operation that was going on.
Because I've heard we're kind of like a pass-through because of our proximity between Atlanta and Charlotte and all of that.
So
but that's stuff
usually-
that was going to hit the streets.
Usually when we get drugs out of a vehicle, it's a pass-through type of a situation or a delivery too. But a lot of times it's a pass-through. So I know we made a very large quantity arrest of methamphetamines about a year and a half, 2 years ago at a traffic stop. And it was somebody that was actually staying in a hotel here in Clemson, and they were just staying in the hotel and passing through. They weren't making a delivery. And so when they stopped the car, there was a large quantity of methamphetamine in the car. Yeah, so we had no information and nothing to substantiate that the destination was here. It was coming through from Atlanta to another location.
What was the tip on that? Do you remember?
In that one, the officer took a interdiction class and learned skills on how to detect potential interdiction activity, and was able to develop probable cause to stop the vehicle when the people got mobile, and then was able to search the vehicle and found the methamphetamine.
Any other questions? Anything in the crime report? So the next thing we have is the board member applications. I believe the deadline was December 1.
Yes.
I would like to just take a point of personal privilege to thank all of our board members for your service. You know, some of you may have reapplied to stay on, some maybe you're cycling off, but we definitely appreciate all the work you're doing. Everybody's busy, and you know, the fact that you're able to spend this time and also other time when we've had committees and things, I think everybody appreciates all of the service, so thank you.
While we're there, Eunice, are you planning to be at the January meeting? Okay. I know that you voiced that you were cycling off, and
Yeah, I was wondering if I know the switch is in February, so do I come in February or is January my?
You can. So far, I believe there's 4 seats that are becoming open, and we've only received 3 applications. So
wow.
I think
And it's passed.
we're gonna have a vacancy.
Are they going to leave it open longer then?
I believe that they re-advertise. I will get with the new clerk, who's Jeremiah Johnson, I think. Jeremiah, or is it Jackson? I'm sorry. I always call him Jeremiah, and I never call him by his last name.
Yeah.
But I will get with him and see. I think that it will stay open until, I've been doing some recruiting, got some interest, and then got phone calls saying, I got too much on my plate, I can't do it. So.
But the new people start in February.
Technically, it's after the first of the year, whether it's January or February. A lot of people start in February because they have the 2 meetings in January to vote on who they're selecting, and then they start their term in February. So I think that's just how it falls, depending on when the city council meetings occur. They decide who, and then in the next meeting of that board seats. So I think February, we're good. We're good.
Just keep coming.
I'm not going to come in February. Thank you, though.
Thank
But yes, if you know anyone that you think might be interested, please recruit.
The next thing we have are requested presentations. Do we have any other thoughts, ideas on folks that we'd like to have come and present to us? Information that might be helpful to the board or helpful to the rest of the community?
So January, we have the fire chief coming.
Oh, perfect.
So that's set. So if you want anything February, March, April, just let me know.
Maybe the new attorney, I don't know if we should hit him too early or give him a month or 2, but we had an opportunity just to meet him briefly. He seems very impressive, and I think we share him a little bit with Wall Holla too, if I remember it correctly. He offers advice there too.
He has several municipalities that he and his partners service, because I know Fountain Inn may be one of them.
Well,
I could be wrong, but I know there's more than one.
Wall Holla. But I don't know if we want to give him time first, but he seemed very interesting.
Might be another one to add maybe later.
Really nice guy.
All right, and if you think of any others, definitely you can look at bringing folks in. And then now we have board member open discussion. Any items not on the agenda, comments, new business, concerns people have voiced to you?
Well, I talked to the chief if he wants to expound on that a little bit.
Well, I noticed on the Nextdoor app, there was some discussion about handicap parking violations and what folks can do to address that issue. And the simple answer is call the police department, the non-emergency number at 864-624-2000 and report the violation, where it is, the description of the vehicle. And if an officer is available, we'll dispatch them. If one is not, they'll put a call in, and when an officer does become available, we'll dispatch them. If it's in the downtown area, the parking enforcement folks can respond to that and deal with it as well. But they primarily just stay in the downtown area right now for their enforcement. And that's how we do it. Other folks were asking, well, do we take pictures and send them in? And we can't cite based on a picture that's sent to us. So it's something that we, again, have to observe, and that's a legal requirement for it. So that's how we handle that.
I'm just observing that we haven't had any citizen comments other than we invited the person, right? They were a speaker, so I don't think that's unique to us. I think that might be true for all city boards and so on, but is there any publicity done by the city? Does anyone know to tell people, you know, if you have a concern that might be police related, to come here? I mean, obviously, most of the citizenry doesn't participate at all. They don't even vote, but we'd be happy to get comments from citizens and direct our attention to. So is anything done on the city level to tell people about the boards other than the website?
I don't think so. I think because the city is small as it is, when people do call to complain about something, they field the call then and there and then refer it accordingly. I know they have conversations with the council, and people bring issues to the council members there, and then Administrator Blondeau writes them all down and then sends them to the different department heads depending on what the topic is. We then respond to that, and they then publish it on the website as to what the response is. So that's one way. And I know a lot of people that have been here for a long time know people personally that work in the different departments and will call them directly about their issue, or they'll call and want to talk to me directly. So they usually go that route. I know the different traffic complaints cyclically come in depending on what's going on. The most recent one that I've been made aware of is the folks in the Mountain View neighborhood are indicating that the vehicles that are traveling southbound on 133 are coming into town too fast, and they're having difficulty getting out of their neighborhood. So I know we're going to be putting the speed trailer up there to see if we can see what's going on up there. We had another issue that was reported to us in the Riggs neighborhood on Pool Lane. Some of the residents felt like the vehicles were traveling too fast there. Well, I spoke with our city engineer. We took a look at the road, and they have an engineering solution that might help slow some of the cars down there. Because a lot of times the design of the road fosters how people utilize the road, and it may be too fast, and it definitely causes some issues. So if we can, through engineering, redesign how that works, then we can control it better. Similar to where Frontage Road and Berkeley, they redesigned that intersection to kind of help with that. And I haven't heard a complaint in a while about speeding along Berkeley in that way, because those stop signs kind of break that flow up. But it also was put there too to help foster the Green Crescent Trail, so it was a dual purpose thing. And I did hear from the Department of Transportation that they are going to drop the speed limit on Frontage Road now that the Green Crescent Trail features have been added. They're going to, because that is a state road, they're the ones that control the speed limit. They're going to be dropping the speed limit.
Well, that's interesting, the things you've gotten. I mean, perhaps when there's no citizen, I mean, I think board member open discussion is fine at the end, because it's just my opinion. I won't be here, so y'all do whatever you want. But we then hear the whole meeting, right? But to prioritize citizen comments, so you're getting them and we're not hearing them. So if you want to just throw in stuff either at the end like this, or especially on a short meeting night, not when it's 7:30.
Right. So if you want, right underneath citizen comment, we can put another agenda item in there for
Recent.
Citizen complaints fielded through the month.
I don't think we necessarily need the one person who called in, but if you got 30 or 10 people, you know, a repeated concern, that might be useful to report. What do y'all think? I mean, I thought that was interesting what you just reported, and you
Sure.
just got that off the top of your head, but we don't know.
And I didn't realize that the inquiries, the responses are published. I didn't.
From
yeah.
conversations with
Yeah,
council,
I didn't
they are,
realize
yes.
that.
I go to that, and Andy handles, I mean, try to go to most of them, so that there's anything that I need to, you know, and Andy handles, I guess he passes on to you the things that are appropriate to this department, yeah.
Yeah, he did a good job.
He does?
Yeah, he divvies up, actually what he does is he lists them all out and he sends it to every department head, and whoever of us have a piece in it,
Which
we
ones are
reply. And an example of that is, so let's say it's speed measure, or speed calming. It's not just the police department as part of that, it's also the city engineer that's part of that. So the city engineer will put his piece in there and I'll put my piece in there as to how it relates to the question.
I wanted to ask you something, because you said something to me earlier concerning this handicap parking. So unless they have it designated, did I get you wrong, designated with a sign, then it's considered not properly, or did I understand that
To
wrong?
cite somebody for parking in a handicap spot, the spot has to be properly marked and or have the proper signage. So there may be situations where they don't need a sign, but the pavement is marked a specific way.
Right.
So I give an example. We have a handicap spot in front that doesn't have a sign in front of it, but the pavement is marked properly.
Okay.
But sometimes, you know, life happens, the fall hits, leaves drop, you can't see the pavement markings and somebody parks there, they don't know it's a handicap spot because the leaves covered it up. So if there's an additional sign there, then that helps with not having. So yeah, so if there's a private piece of property where it's not properly marked, and it's brought to our attention, we will get with our planning and codes department and have the code enforcement officer go out there and ensure that their parking spaces are properly marked.
Because I've seen some that are so faded
Yeah.
that you'd have to have some pretty good eyesight to even pick up. All you see is a blur of blue down there, you know.
So if it needs touch up or whatever, so that it's obvious that it's a handicap spot, I mean, that's all stuff that's handled in the ADA law, and our code and planning and codes folks handle that stuff.
I'm just remembering, it's a different subject, but we were talking about getting those signs for loud vehicles to buy them, to put up wherever people were complaining. Is there money for that? Is that?
Like what they're having green.
Well, I had sent y'all the
Yeah.
pictures. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be like that,
Yeah.
and we don't have this $1,000 fine either, so I don't know if it's worth it.
So if I remember correctly in that discussion with city staff, our sign ordinance would prohibit the signs being put up in certain areas. And in certain areas, because of the limited width of the sidewalk itself, it would be problematic. And I didn't hear any more conversations about that.
Well, and then there's so I heard last night on Issaquena, a loud car, which made me think of it, but where on Issaquena would you put such a thing, right? Because the road kind of does this on both sides. So there's the whole visibility plus the sign wouldn't be, it's not like downtown Greenville where they see huge sidewalks.
Right,
So
we
it's
have a lot of
probably,
space.
I'm just to close that loop, it's probably not as feasible in a small town, basically.
Not unless you know, Greenville has large, wide sidewalks
Downtown.
where,
Yeah.
downtown, and that's where they put them.
That's where they are, yeah. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
What's going on with the discussion about the paid parking downtown? Is that progressed or?
So the city council had a workshop prior to one of the council meetings to discuss where they're going with that. They're still moving forward with putting paid parking. There was some council members that voiced that they think some of it should be free, not all of it should be paid. And they didn't vote on anything. They just voiced their opinions about how things should go. And I think it's going to go back before council at some point to be voted on. But I have not been involved in those discussions internally, so I can't give you an update on that. I know there's a wide range of ideas that are in there, and I don't know how you can institute all of them and still be fair to everyone. So I'm not involved in that discussion.
All right, do we have any other board member open discussion items? Okay, if none, we can get a motion to adjourn, or did Kevin do?
Elaine and I were talking, there was over at the Botanical Gardens, and we probably figure what Chief's going to do is refer it to the university. Do you know about this, about the gates that are locked?
This is the first time hearing.
The geese that are what?
The gates.
Oh,
So Elaine, say,
Are geese there?
you hear about the geese?
Open season, right?
What about the gates?
so, I don't know her friend's name, but we were talking at lunch, and she was saying that they're back in the Botanical Gardens. They used to go in there all the time, and now the gates are locked at a certain time, and they can't get in and out. So she said she had some concerns that what if people got in there and they had some kind of issue. So if it's,
And there's a children's program that meets in there late, that's past the gate locking time. Now,
Is that up by like the
The
butterfly?
Hanover,
area?
yeah, it's a children's
Yeah,
thing by
yeah.
the Hayden House,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And see, what the history is, you used to could get in and out of the gate, but you had to be our garden club was late, and we had to be sure we were out of there by 4:30, I believe, or 4:15, because they would lock the gates. So we made sure of that. Well, they evidently have a children's group that goes in there late, like 5 or something. And what the concern was that somebody this actually happened according to this person, that somebody got sick down there, but since the construction's going on, the gate is always locked for through traffic. Now, we're talking about the Hayden House, which if ordinarily you just turn off that main drag and you're at the Hayden House and the Hanover House, and that's where the children's programs are. Now, to get in there 24/7, because of construction, you have to go up to the main entrance and take the yellow brick road
Oh, you have to go
through
through
the
the main
woods
gate.
to
Yeah,
Grandma's
the family
house, and it's
yeah.
one lane,
Okay.
and it's very slow. And somebody got sick down in there, and they barely got the ambulance. That was the issue. And I said, well, you're probably gonna have to talk to the university.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
follow up on that.
yeah, and that's where we were thought, we'd refer it to you, and then you would probably say, okay, maybe university, I don't,
Is that the
and I went through
university
it.
or the state? Because it's the
Botanical
state
Gardens
botanical garden.
is on university
It's on
property.
university property.
The gates are chained,
Yeah.
so it's not even a combination, something you can get in, because I went through and kind of took some pictures looking at it, thinking like, I don't see an easy solution. I mean,
I-
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Are you talking about pedestrian or vehicle gates?
Vehicle.
yeah,
The vehicle gates, at least I know you can always get out. Because I was in there past close.
not up around where the
Hey, no, we couldn't get in or out.
construction type of trailer is, not that backside, because that's a gate that does this.
If you go in there, like you're not talking about the main gates at the university. The main gate, like at the
No.
front. Oh, you're talking about the back. Like,
This is like the first gate, first road off of 76. You go left in there, and then back in there, there's a
The Hayden House, the Hayden House and the Hanover House are
Yeah,
on that,
so-
and they're very close to the road.
Yeah, they used to almost always be open, but now with the construction, that's closed off.
That- yeah.
Well, you mean the construction on on Perimeter Road? That's pretty much almost done.
how
Yeah, but the other issue is that the children's group is meeting down there late.
How often is that?
And then the gate's gonna be locked. Huh, I don't know.
Well, it's certainly not our issue,
No.
well,
so we don't need to use our
So
time.
that's a city of Clemson thing.
Well, I told him we'd pass
Clemson
it.
University, I mentioned something to Chief Mullen about it. I'm sure they, if he's not aware of it, he'll get on it.
Great, thank you.
that's all we wanted to hear. Just pass it along.
All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn, I can do that. What are y'all gonna do next year? You'll be sitting here at 8:30.
Do we have the date for the next meeting or
It's the fourth Thursday of January, so
Thursday, January?
that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, the 25th of January.
January 25th is the next meeting. All right, we are adjourned.